On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we are back with a car you guys love. My mom's now broken again, 2013 Toyota Camry Hybrid. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, we're back with my mom's Toyota Camry Hybrid, and this is the third time we've had to fix it in about a billion years.
It's 10 years old and 260,000 miles, and this is the first engine trouble we've had.
And the other one was tangentially engine trouble. If you guys remember, a rock hit the hybrid radiator that's in front of the radiator, popped a hole in that, and that took about, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes to replace on $100.
Yeah.
And then the other problem we had was wheel bearings, because the engine ran longer than the wheel bearings could last. And now it's suddenly having a whole bunch of problems.
When the engine first starts, it shakes violently, and then as soon as it smooths out, it runs perfectly. And this thing's still getting 36 miles per gallon. It runs fantastic down the road. Does 100 mile an hour if you put your foot in it, and just as smooth as glass. But only when it's starting does it shake.
Okay, so Dad has the VVT actuator here because he did the check engine lights on, and it's showing that it was VVT, right?
I haven't checked the code yet.
Oh, okay.
But I pulled it out just to check it, just to see. And this thing's always had synthetic oil in it.
Yeah.
It's nice and smooth.
I mean, there's no carbon buildup. Usually these are black.
Yeah,
and that one looks brand new.
It smells good. It looks good. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this is not the problem after looking at it. So we want to pull the codes. I haven't pulled them yet, so we're going to do that.
I guess people on the forums were saying it was VVT causing that?
It's just a possibility. So I thought, well, but I just couldn't make sense of the fact that it could be this because, why would it come and go? Now this problem first started just after been running perfectly for all these years. I took off one day, and as I started it up, I felt it shake.
Yeah.
And then it took off. Never had it again. Then a month later, shake. Now it's shaking every single time. So, of course, it's a hybrid, so every time you pull up the stop sign, it shuts off. And as soon as you give it the gas, the engine it'll shake pretty violently, and then as you take off, it smooths out. So it's only on that initial starting, which tells me that it almost acts like it's a mixture issue. I don't think it's a variable valve timing. But I just thought, well, while we got it out, let's go ahead and check it and make sure it's working okay.
So we talked about this. I think it's an ignition issue. People on the internet have said it's a fuel pump issue, but we don't think it's a fuel pump issue because, like Dad said, wide open throttle, it'll go 100, and that means the pump is supplying enough pressure to overcome the hardest part of its drive cycle, which the pressure drops substantially when the injectors are wide open, right? So the fuel pump works even harder at wide open, and it runs great.
But it could be an issue on pump up.
It could.
Because if it's not pumping up to deliver that fuel, and it takes it a second to get it, it's obviously what it is. It's either too rich or it's too lean, or it's a spark issue.
Yeah,
it's causing that issue. But I don't think it's timing. But it could be too lean if, in fact, when it's first starting, it don't have enough fuel pressure. But this thing didn't set any codes for a long time.
Yeah,
because it would come and go and shake and then smooth out. Now finally, it did it so bad for so long, it finally set a code.
And I can't quite see the rail, but I'm assuming that this has a fuel pressure sensor on it. If I could see the end of the rail, there's the rail right there. Do you see a sensor sticking out the end of it so that that way the engine can tell you if it was low fuel pressure?
No. It's in there, but...
some engines still don't use fuel pressure sensors because it's a bunch of added cost.
Sure, yeah, it can live without it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just cycle this VVT with just so we can watch it, but it's really just confirmation that it is working okay. I mean, sure, it has to be working because the thing runs fantastic.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So and
you'd feel like power drop off if the VVT wasn't kicking in.
I'm not a VVT expert. Matter of fact, I've never worked on a vehicle with VVT until this one because that just shows you how. I mean, I'm used to big blocks with Hollies and or Quadrajets. That's what I grew up with, or Model Ts like that one. But my understanding is that this just in a quick tutorial that I did on the internet to look up, is this has to be a variable position. It's a variable valve timing, so this isn't an on-off, even though it may be able to go full on, full off, full voltage pulling it one way and no voltage. It's spring return, so it's power applied, spring return. But I would imagine that the position of the spool is proportional to the voltage that's applied to the pins.
If it's iffy, right? Because I think it's just a solenoid. A lot of VVTs, older ones, that are just on-off.
So it would pulse and shift and then lock it?
Yeah, I mean, the cams really only had 2 positions, right? All right, we're going to hook up the Autel real quick, guys, and from there, we should be able to kick the VVT solenoid on and off, usually. Incredibly, guys, we just scanned this thing for the first time, and I think we've got a pretty good smoking gun, but I just want to comment on the fact that I pulled 6 codes from this car, and if I scan any BMW, I think we can guarantee a minimum of 20 to 120. Anyway, here are our faults. We have cylinder 1 misfire, cylinder 1 misfire, cylinder. There are just 4 states of the code. It's pending, current, unknown, and a history code. So it's been there. It's also, it thinks it's going to reoccur, and also it's current. Sorry about the focus. Yeah, there we go. We're back. And we also have an evap code that's history and a CD changer fault. This has the N-6 disc, so I would assume that's just going to be broken.
Yeah, it's broken. It hadn't worked for years.
Oh, okay.
We don't ever use it.
Let's see if we can trigger that VVT solenoid for you there.
Okay. Yeah, we know it's not this, but let's just do it just for fun anyway.
Yep. Okay. VVT control, VVT bank 1. Oh, that's just live data. I was in active test, I thought. Oh. Unable to communicate with the control unit. We'll try the other version of VVT, all data. And I don't know if it'll let me trigger over here. The active test changes VVT incrementally. Ah, look at that, you can. It only wants you to test it with ignition on. Ignition on, engine on, shift and park.
Oh.
Unfortunately.
All right, well, let's pop her back in. I tell you what, I've worked on a lot of these old things, not as many as some people, but this old Toyota really impresses me.
Yeah.
And for 10 years old, no oil on the ground.
Yeah, that's crazy. I saw a lot of oil around the cap, but
I just assumed it was somebody who changed the oil.
It does look like somebody just poured oil all over it.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay.
It's a nice 10 millimeter you got there.
This is my metric crescent wrench.
That's why I commented on it. Wow, they've never been out!
This is the only vehicle I've never done maintenance to. We just always sent it out. Look at that.
There's no oil.
Clean as a new one.
I was fully expecting the spark plug well to be full of oil.
Did you hear about the guy who sent his wife down to the Ace Hardware store to get a metric crescent wrench?
It's messed up.
Yeah, the guy he went and he told her there was no such thing, and the woman said, there's no. She said, there is. My husband said I had to get the metric crescent wrench. So the guy, he says there's no such thing. He argued with her for a while. He argued with her for a while. And finally went over and he picked the crescent wrench up and
try again.
He looked at the crescent wrench and on one side it said SAE, or it had just standard inches. On the other side it said it in metric, and he said, "Oh, well, here's your metric crescent wrench." And she wouldn't buy it until he
showed her that.
So we're going to swap these.
Yeah,
see if the problem follows the coil.
Let's see if the problem follows.
Okay.
I figure it's the easy thing to do since there was no.
We probably ought to pull the spark plugs and take a look.
We should, but hopefully we still have the problem.
It probably just needs spark plugs.
It probably does.
Again, we won't. I don't know that they've. Like I say, I don't know if they've ever been changed.
Here you go. That's what you want to see right there. Misfires all the way through. Okay.
Okay, let's check it out.
How do we make the engine start?
Push down the brake. Oh, no, it probably will not start. There it goes. Well, that was smooth as glass that time.
Yeah, I heard it. I was like, why did it start perfectly?
Look, one misfire.
We do have a misfire, but still on cylinder 1.
Yeah, it's a bad spark plug, I'll bet you money. And it rattled just for a second, then came out of it.
Okay.
I saw it shaking just for a second, stuttering, and then smooth. Yeah, this thing is just awesomely smooth.
I think you mentioned that it'll shake out of its mounts.
It shakes really violently.
It probably could use motor mounts at 200,000 miles.
Oh yeah, maybe.
We talked about this problem quite a bit, and we weren't working with any data at the time other than the fact that it was shaking on startup. And my thought was what I always run into on high mileage imports and stuff like that: oil in the spark plug wells, because the spark plug tube seals usually fail and then they fill up with oil and then misfire city. And it's one of the easiest things to solve. Just pop the valve cover off, put new gaskets in, and you're back in business with new plugs and maybe new coils. But looking into this thing, let's get a little bit of light in here for you. You can see down in the spark plug wells, it is perfect. There's not a drop of oil. You can read the logo on the top of the spark plugs. Just, this car is weirdly always perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that plug. Hopefully we find like a damaged electrode or something like that, some kind of issue with that plug just degrading over time. And we could swap spark plugs, but the reality is we should probably just go buy a set of plugs and put it in it, and maybe that'll be fixed and this thing will be back on the road.
That's not good.
That doesn't seem good.
That is terrible. I don't want to ruin the cylinder head. I think we better pour some penetrant down in there.
Gonna try a second one.
Right.
So this spark plug did not want to move.
Yeah, it's been in there so long that it's stuck. You know, I've been rebuilding engines and transmissions since I was a toddler. You know, my dad told me about the first one that I helped him with. He put together a 283 small block over in the Chevrolet garage in Burden, Kansas, and he said that I was sitting there in my diaper helping him, watching, of course, and I was watching him put all the bolts in on the intake. He didn't have the carburetor on it. He was putting the bolts in, so of course I had to help.
You threw one in?
Dad came back and he said he was looking and he said, "Where's the bolts?" And I told him that I put it in there. He had to tear the engine, he had to tear the intake back off.
Gets you every time.
Anyway, yeah, these are terrible.
Yeah, they do. They look stuck.
I don't want to take them out without putting some lube in them. I think we better just figure on changing them. But anyways, I pretty well gave up unless I was working for somebody else. I don't build anything for myself hardly at all. Well, I'll rebuild a forklift engine if you know, I rebuilt that diesel in the Cat the other day, and now I got a diesel for the air compressor
That big trailer air compressor?
Well, the tow behind.
Oh yeah.
The one that I worked on, put the head on, and finally traced it. You know, I probably haven't told you that story, but I could not. This old engine would, it's only got 100 hours on it. Brand new engine, brand new air compressor, 100 hours. In other words, we bought it.
It's a Solar, isn't it? Or
it's a Solar or a Sullivan, I don't remember.
Okay.
But anyways, we bought the thing and I sent an employee down to get it. And, you know, obviously the guy was getting rid of it because he had this problem.
Ah.
Yeah, these are all bad.
That doesn't look good.
Yeah, they're all bad. Anyways, pulled the head, regasketed. The gasket looked fine. I couldn't find any problems. Regasketed. Had the head tested. Came back, put it back on, started it up, blew the water out. 10 minutes, all the water came out of the radiator. So couldn't figure out what it was. So I pulled the head off of it, looked down in it again the second time, couldn't find any issues at all. It looked it still got all all the machining marks from when it was factory board. It's a brand spanking new engine.
Yeah.
Somebody'd already put a water pump on it too. Somebody'd done a lot of work trying to figure this thing out. You know,
Yeah.
and I knew, so obviously it couldn't be the water pump, but they were doing anything to try to figure out where the water was coming from and why it was leaving. We started up and it bubbled right in the, so, you know, I had the head, like I said, I had the head pressure tested, came back good.
Yep.
So I couldn't do anything with it. I said, I ain't got time to work on this thing. I said, just put it in the shed. So we rolled it out in the shed, covered the engine up, put all the parts back in there and just laid them in it. And I thought, when we get time, we had some other major projects. When we don't have something to do, we'll bring it back and work on.
Yeah.
It sat in there for 6 months. Brought it back in the shop, and I said, "Okay, we're going to fix this thing while you got a break. Let's get this engine out of here, and I'll fix it." So I had my guys come back in, pull it back in the shop. And we come back in. Number 4 was full of water.
Ah.
Now, we hadn't drained the water out of the engine.
Yeah.
we'd just drain the water down and
Out of the radiator.
and then so the block was sitting clear, level full of antifreeze. Clear to the top of the block was sitting full of antifreeze.
Crazy.
Number 4 cylinder had antifreeze in the piston, and inside the rest of them were all dry. You know, we'd cleaned it all out looking for the problem before, so you know it wasn't like we poured water in and left it. We wouldn't have done that.
Right.
And but anyways, of course it wasn't level full. Obviously, the cylinders were down a little bit, you know, in the block. But anyways, got looking. There's a great big rust pattern right in the side of the block.
That's what I wondered, if it was a cracked block or
there was a hole.
Yep.
It was about that far down from the deck.
Okay.
There was a perfect starburst, just a starburst of rust.
Yeah.
That was traveling out in multiple directions where the water was coming through that hole. It's a pinhole. It's a defect in the cylinder wall in that block.
From new, apparently.
From brand new.
Yeah.
And it's not a common problem, but it does happen.
Yeah.
People start looking. Anyways, I sent it over to a friend of mine, and I said, just sleeve that hole. And so he got he bought a sleeve. Sleeved it, put it all back together, and I'm going to change the rings.
Yeah.
But I'm putting the bearings back. I'm not re-bearing it. I probably wouldn't even have to change the rings, to tell you the truth.
Right. Maybe the one where the water sat, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's not, I mean, the cylinder wall's new, so.
Yeah. I mean, now I know that's heresy for anybody who's rebuilding an engine, but you know, I've rebuilt automatic transmissions in 30 minutes without changing the gaskets.
Yeah.
And they're still on the highway.
Yeah, just clutches.
So. You know, it's what sure, they're brand new when you put them in, but they're worn as soon as you start the car.
Right.
Now they wear in, of course. I understand the dynamics of the wear into the cylinder and so on. That doesn't matter. But for an air compressor, I'm thinking, you know, I'm not building a grandfather clock or you know a precision Swiss watch. I'm building something that's got to make air and it's going to run for a while.
Yeah.
So I could not re-ring it, but I'll put a set of rings in it. Matter of fact, I already bought them. Bought a set of rings. I bought a gasket set, and but I'm putting the bearings back in it. So I'm just going to give it a. You know, the rotating assembly, I'm just shoving it right back in the hole.
Yep.
On this particular engine, for those of you who rebuild diesels, it's a Perkins.
Oh, okay.
And this is a Perkins that has the crankshaft is built up with the main bearings on the crank as an assembly, and that's charged into the block. So the block has a series of staggered holes, right?
Yeah.
And so every bearing is assembled onto the crankshaft in some other place in the factory. And when it's coming down the line, the crankshaft as a rotating assembly just
drops in.
Drop it in like you're dropping in a camshaft with all the bearings on it.
Yeah.
Then you just shoot a bolt in to keep the bearings from spinning, and of course to line up the oil holes.
Yeah.
And then there's a great big seal that goes on the back. It's really sweet. I'm not taking that apart, you know, because when I took it apart, I bagged it. It was clean it was a brand new engine.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just going to stick it back. People might think I'm crazy, but I guarantee it'll work.
Hey, and it only runs at what, 3,000 RPM forever, 2,500 RPM.
Oh yeah.
It's not like it's a crazy high precision application.
But anyways, that was a weird one to find, and it took a long time to find it. Wouldn't have found it if we hadn't parked it.
Oh yeah.
Just by parking it full of water,
letting it
let the water draw through that crack and show up. So sometimes it pays to not be in a hurry.
It pays to procrastinate.
Yeah. Well, let me get some penetrant.
There's WD-40 on the shelf right there.
Okay.
All right.
Look at that.
A little bit of oil and they're coming right out.
A little bit of PB in the hole.
Hopefully you got a magnet. You're gonna get lucky? Nope. Yeah. I love my magnetic spark plug sockets now, but unfortunately they're in one of the toolboxes. I'm still surprised we pulled all 4 coils and none of them had oil on them. Let's see if my thought here will work. Look at that. Denso FK16HRA8.
Denso's, that'd be a factory Toyota.
That gap looks pretty big to me. What's your thought on that gap? Whoop! You threw my tool. That's a lot bigger than like 040, which should be.
Yeah,
it's a big gap.
Boy, it's a beautiful burn.
It really is. It really is. Even all the way down into the ceramic, it looks like nice and even.
Yeah. I tell you what, that's just fantastic. But you know, as far as all these miles, those you can see where there was. That's why it was stuck.
Oh yeah. So a little carbon buildup around the edge of the plug too.
A little carbon on it. Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Let me get my tool back out from underneath the car.
Okay.
All right, we got all 4 plugs out. This is number 1. You guys can see the strap's a little bit black. and the electrode
Obviously, it's not running the same on that cylinder.
Yeah, it's not running the same.
These have a nice deposit of, it's been super hot, so the carbon's been extremely hot right there. And then there's very little. This plug here is very clean on the porcelain. There's just a tiny coat of buildup on it. There, you can see it down inside. Where it's a little cooler, it doesn't get hot enough down in there. And but you go look at this one.
This one's darker as well, and then that one is really dark.
That's where I just touched it with a little bit of. But you can see that gap.
The gap's huge.
Yeah,
It's probably not running the same because that spark plug's been bad for quite a while.
That could be. Well, okay.
Let's go to the O'Reilly.
Let's go go to O'Reilly's and see our favorite parts person.
We are here at O'Reilly's with one of our spark plugs. Let's see if we can get some replacements that work.
Hello.
How are you? Hey.
What's going on, Oscar? All right, guys, we got some plugs. Let's get out of here because it just started raining. But the NGK laser iridiums that are the OE spec, basically, they're actually rated to 120,000 miles. Obviously, the old ones went double that, which is crazy. And a bottle of 44K, just in case there's anything going on in the fuel system.
Wait till we show them the difference in gas.
Oh, it's crazy. We're back from O'Reilly's with our new plugs. One of my favorite ones, the laser iridium. Obviously, all my BMWs were getting laser platinums forever, and now the new laser iridiums are literally designed to last the life of a car, according to the manufacturers. But yeah, that's a big difference in gap. So we measured these at about 0.040, and those ones were 0.032. So pretty massive difference, and hopefully just throwing in a new set of plugs here sorts most of this out. I'm still, like I said, still surprised none of these coils had oil on the end of them. Completely dry in there. Oh yeah, you wanted to put anti-seize on this, huh?
Yeah, put some copper or nickel on them.
Make it a lot easier to get out the next time.
Yeah, that copper will stay in there. So does the nickel.
Of course, we don't have the spark plug socket over here I would like to have, so we're gonna put this in with the magnetic 5/16 driver.
Hey, you know what I always say? Poor people have poor ways.
Did I get it? Oh, it didn't start. Hopefully I can get a couple turns going on this thing. And once it takes it, we can pull the driver off. After a bunch of precision workmanship using this 5/16 driver here.
Doesn't everybody install spark plugs with a 5/16 driver?
It was the closest magnet we had. We've got all the spark plugs in, and we're basically ready to put all of our coils back in. As soon as we...
I bet that's a Toyota service tool.
Yeah, this is a Toyota Milwaukee right on it. Got our gaskets back in place, coils going in. Hopefully this is it. Just a couple seconds later, we'll go ahead and flip this back on. We'll get our live data going so we can look for misfire counts, see if we've got any problems. And then, of course, they can go fill this up and run a bottle of 44K. And the fuel system, if there are any issues, should clean them right up. Just in case, you know, that injector on one has me slightly worried, but I really think that the spark plug degraded, and then it got worse and worse and worse, and then it started running poorly because the spark plug was degraded. So,
you know, when you think about this car versus another car, though, it's 268,000 miles. I can't tell you how many thousands of miles this car has driven without the engine running.
oh, for sure.
So,
For sure.
just running on battery, because it does a lot of battery time, especially in town. If the gap gets too big, the voltage has to go too high to make it jump, and the higher the compression is, the more voltage it takes to jump the gap.
What? Why does it? Oh, it was clearing the tell pedestrians I'm coming sound. That's pretty funny. I was like, why is it making the noise? Is it gonna run over us? All right.
Yeah.
Clear it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that will wipe out coils for sure.
Dennis Weaver will be here anytime. Anyway.
Huh.
You probably don't know what I'm talking about.
No.
Dennis Weaver.
I don't.
Oh. You never seen the show where the semi chases Dennis Weaver in a Dodge Dart?
Nope. It kept one of the misfire codes, which is kind of interesting. We're gonna pull up our live data. Oh, it's got racing operation. There you go.
That's only when your mother's driving.
You have to check the box for racing. I'm kidding. All right, we're gonna find our.
She knows where that setting's at.
Where the racing operation is. I think I went too far for the misfire count.
She loves to pull up beside a Hellcat and wait for the light to turn green.
And drop the hybrid on them.
all they see is a gold dart. An arrow just disappear.
All 130 horsepower.
It completely takes them off guard.
The battery's dead.
That's new.
All right, guys, what actually happened? Pretty simple. The scanner's remote was plugged in and it kept the ECU alive, and it wasn't happy about that. Oh.
Still jumped a little bit.
So we're driving the Camry now. Got it out of the garage. It's got 39 miles on the clock. Brand new car.
Yeah. Did it?
That's
no way.
No, it's the trip meter. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Did it reset the odometer?
I was gonna say you couldn't have done that.
266, 216. Crazy.
I thought it was 268. That's all.
But like you said, as soon as you start driving, no misfires.
Yeah, see, the engine's off right now, so it's in regen. And then as soon as you start to take off,
Yeah, it kicks on. There,
Right there.
felt it. It started beautifully that time.
yeah, there was no issue there.
Keys fell out.
Stuff.
You gonna launch it?
No, just because it's just normally when.
There it started.
Yeah, see that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal vibration. Normally it just
Yeah.
shake a steering wheel, and much more violent.
Now that we played move the coils around to wherever they went back in, our misfires moved to 3, so that was probably the coil from 1, and it probably needs 1 coil pack, and you should probably put a Toyota one back in.
Yeah, I bet that's what it was all along. Because all the spark plugs looked the same. There wasn't one spark plug that was
One looked a little.
Well, but the gap wasn't more degraded on one than the others. It's just you could tell it wasn't firing correctly on that one.
Yeah.
So I'd say it probably has a weak coil. And now
that we put spark plugs in it, the coil can jump the gap, but we should still put a coil in it.
Right, and it could have been my spark plugs for, not changing them.
Yeah.
Could have, lost that. But, coils, they failed, even new ones.
Yeah.
So still, I'm not worried about it. It's not, of course, right now I'm trying to spot on.
Perfectly.
Couldn't ask for anything smoother than this little thing.
Yeah. Cylinder 1 misfire detected is still sitting there in unknown.
What now? What is?
That old cylinder, there were 3 or 4 cylinder 1 misfire codes set. 4.
Yeah, but
and the unknown one keeps not clearing. I bet that one will clear after 10 ignition cycles or something like that.
What are we going to work on next?
Well, I'm going back to my building to finish putting the lights up.
I need to go make some bushings for a transmission.
Yeah? In your lathe?
On the lathe. I need to machine out a couple of bushings.
Well, for now, the Camry is back on the road. Obviously, we'll throw a new Toyota coil in number 3. Once we can get one of those, it's Sunday. The dealership's definitely not open today. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts just like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I will talk to you next time.
I don't think you want to on this one.